Thank you everybody for coming. For those of you who don't know, I'm Jonathan Hart. I'm the president, River Soaring president of 2026, and chief tow pilot and CFIG. Thank you all for coming. And then I just wanted to say a quick thank you to my family for making all the food, and then for Hood Tech Aero for letting us use the space here this morning. So we'll give them we got a few topics. We're going to start out with general operations, talk about the procedures around here, and then we have ground operations, and then we'll do a tow pilot thing, and then we'll finish out with some kind of flying the local area, stuff like that. So I'm going to introduce Anastasia, just going to go and talk about general operations.
Alrighty, good day everyone. Whoever I haven't welcomed yet, welcome. And we're going to start with pilot and command responsibilities. So the pilot and command is in charge of the safety of the glider and their passengers, while the field manager is responsible for glider sequencing, all of the ground ops and launch. Okay? So that's not the pilot and command. That's the field manager. Alright, so prior to launch, glider, pilot and command, and facilities. Okay, when switching to runway 7, it should be a unanimous decision between the tow pilot and the glider pilot. Typically, it's going to be the tow pilot who will suggest, let's say, move to runway 7. Yeah? Alright, so this is what it's going to look like when operating off of 7. So the tow pilot will be staged at the taxiway intersection, at the north taxiway intersection, and the glider will land and stop at the midfield intersection, and the ground crew will be ready to go and launch them. Yeah? So this is just a visualization. So again, we move down to 7 when there's an east wind. So taking off of here is equivalent to taking off a third or fourth strike wind during normal operations. Alright, before takeoff, procedures. Below 200, we land straight ahead in case of a rope break, or we maneuver to the right of the tow plane in case of an engine break. Okay? Because we don't want to land on top of them. Above 200, we're going to turn into the wind and land downwind. Again, a little note here to tow pilots. Glider may turn left. If that's where the crosswind is coming from, we will turn left. So we continue straight. Continue gliding. And above 400, to assess, you either land downwind or you do an abbreviated pattern. Alright, little notes. Be wary of chasing the airspeed under 500 mph. If you encounter a gust or an increase in airspeed, don't pull up too suddenly because the glider may not have enough time to react. Keep the glider within gliding range of the airport, especially in longer tows. We're going to circle around the airport for a bit, so in case of a roll break, we can still glide back down. Alright, routing and release. You adjust for all the factors of traffic, wind, and clouds. Okay. Upon release, the tow plane turns left, the glider always turns right. For a pattern tow, we're going to take off, we're going to make a right 270 cross at midfield. And glider release is going to be about 2,000 feet MSL for 2.5 for landing 2.5 and 2,200 for landing 7, a bit higher. So we will release southbound when launching 2.5 and we will release northbound when launching 7. Okay, for the 3,000 feet training tow, we'll have the same 270 right turn after takeoff, and then on the tail, we'll begin boxing to wake and other maneuvers at or above pattern altitude. And at about 2,500 feet in a cell, we're going to do a 180-degree turn. Because right there, we're going to be heading out to Mount Hood to safely take off. So we have to kind of point back at the airport. Okay? So ridge soaring. All turns are made away from the ridge. And never fly above or below another glider. And when overtaking from behind, pass on the ridge side. Because again, all turns are made from the ridge. You don't want to have a collision if you don't know when the glider in front of you is going to turn. Yeah? So when two gliders are approaching head-on, glider with its right wing to the ridge has the right of way. And landing and recovery. So gliders have a right right-hand pattern, and power airplanes have left-hand. Okay? So the initial point for landing 2.5 is the high school at about 1600 MSL, and initial point for landing 7 is going to be the Hill House at about 1800 MSL. It's going to be a bit higher because it's a little bit further away than the high school. So gliders primarily lift pavement, but we use grass when needed for emergencies, accuracy landings, or when we have multiple gliders landing at the same time. And again, one of the most important points. Don't take up the runway for too long. You know, if you need to push back, do it, quickly, and minimize the time of the cart on the runway too. You know, when pushing backwards, we don't need the cart out there. Yeah. So end of flight. The glider pilot in command will transfer control to another pilot in command, or tie down the glider and do the end of flight checklist, check everything, and then do a final walk around. Again, put the canopy on, connect the battery, put the solar charger on the wing, and log your flights at the end of the day. And that's pretty much up for my part. And next we have ground operations.
And for traffic before you push out on the runway, you should make your call after the passengers are briefed and the student are briefed. Everything should be secured. You need to have your belts on. The passengers need to have their belts on. And then ideally, you're completing your pre-takeoff checklist when you're on the grass still. What I like to do personally is do my checklist once while I'm on the grass and I haven't pulled out. But obviously, there's things like the cable that you can't do while you're not on the runway. So once you get out on the runway, run through it again and make sure everything's done. Ideally, you should have the pre-checkout checklist completely finished by the time that the wing runner is ready to lift the wing. So then make a short call, Hood River Soaring, or Hood River Traffic, tow plane glider staging 2.5. There's no need to take a bunch of time on the radio, unless there's something special that you need to say. Then pull the glider onto the runway, release the cart, release the tow line, and then drive the cart around behind the glider so you're not getting in the way of the tow plane if they're trying to hook up pretty quick. And then align the glider with the center line, or if there's the PIC wants something different, like if there's a wind issue, I'm pointing to the wind a little bit, but that's up to the PIC. And then south wing down. Whether you're on 7, whether we're taking off 7 or 2.5, we always want the south wing down so that we're not near the grass runway. Like if someone needs to land in the grass, we don't have a ground crew member right there that could get in the way. And then get the tow line. This is very important. Hustle, but never hurry. Hustling is being careful but going fast. Hurrying is not careful. So hook up and taking up slack. Don't interrupt the pilot's checklist. So if you see the PIC going through their checklist and they're not to the tow line portion, don't just wave the tow line around in their face. Let them get to the part of the checklist where they're ready. Hold the ring like this.
You can get your volunteers up there.
Yeah, I'll have
Isaac and Ori. Take a chair, Isaac. You need to sit down like you're on the glider. Just steal one from next to John. Just rip it off.
So Isaac's going to play the pilot, and Ori's going to play the wing runner. So Ori is going to hold out the knot, the whole section, whether you just have the tow line or you have a weak hook on it. All of the knots need to be shown, and you should pull back the tennis ball a little bit so you can actually see the knot.
One comment. Note which ring you're looking at. Which ring is exposed.
Small.
So we don't mix up the close ring and the places.
And the handler of that needs to double check that there are no breaks in the ring. We have found rings that had a crack in them, and especially since you're banging that one on the concrete.
Yeah, and so show it to the instructor and the student. But if we're doing a scenic ride, there's no need to show it to the passenger. They don't care about the ring. So get down, raise your closed fist. So instead of raising your open fist and waving it around, what does he want? Raise it closed and then open it. And close it. Okay. Then, so for toast rings, instead of just waving and yanking on the toe line to make sure it's secure, you don't want to do that. Go and grab the small ring of the toast ring and make sure that it's actually secure and moving around inside of the release. And shaking the rope doesn't do anything. So tighten the line and then pull until the glider moves a little bit. And you have to make sure that the glider actually moves. Just jerking it will not do anything. So go to the left wingtip and stand outward of it so you don't get whacked in the shin if the toe plane goes too far. I'm going to take off slack. And then signal the toe plane to take off slack. Then as the rope starts to come taut, or is almost taut, slow down, and then right as the toe line gets taut, go all the way to the top. Okay, so launch sequence. Except for unassisted launch, if you don't have a wing runner, check for the pattern. So the wing runner checks the pattern. What I like to do is look at the pilot, wait for the thumbs up, take a 30-degree look around, go back to the pilot, 30-degree look around, and just make sure, because you're not required to have a radio here at River, so people could be coming in a cub without a radio. So wait for the thumbs up, and raise the wings. So you can adjust, the wings don't have to be perfectly level. If there's a little bit of crosswind, raise the wing higher on the downwind side so that the glider is slightly banked into the wind, or whatever the PIC wants. So then shift your eyes to the rudder, and do not signal tow pilots for takeoff until you see the rudder wiggle. This is pretty obvious, but we have had some problems with it. For tow pilots, we've had some problems with this as well. You need to have two signals to take off. If you just hear the radio, you're not good to go. You need to have both the radio and the wing rudder and the rudder wiggle. I've had times where the tow pilot just goes and I don't get any signal from the glider pilot. If you don't have a radio on you, the glider just starts going, and that's not what we want to do. It's not safe because we need three people to agree that we can take off. That's what makes that happen. Wing runner, you don't need to sprint. Depending on the wind, if there's a little bit of a tailwind, you might need to run further. But if there's significant headwind, or really any headwind at all, just kind of jog a little bit and then let go. And then continue running off the runway behind the 50-foot line, but don't turn your back on the glider because you may be the only person that's looking, and you may be the only person that's going to see if there's a rope break if we need to go grab the glider. So until they've made their turn out, keep looking at the glider. So become and stay proficient. The wing runner course, you can just go onto the soaringsafety.org website to take the wing runner course. You are required to take this course on the ground crew. All of you should have taken it already. Then get trained up by a field manager if you haven't already. And the ground badge is mandatory for all new members. So, and that also includes field pilots. Pay attention, pat wiggle away. Sign up for ground support. We love to see people coming out to help, even if they're not flying. And then we have Saturday Academy and ground school on Thursdays. You're welcome to show up anytime. The next up, I got Jonathan to go over some co-pilot stuff.
You're cool too.
Yes, it is cold. We are cold. Okay. When you're on the ground taxiing around, whether it be warm up, especially during warm up, because it could be that 20 minutes sitting there, lean the mixture out. Otherwise, you're going to end up fouling out spark plugs quicker and things like that. So the mechanics like us, right? If we lean that mixture out when taxiing around for extended times. I also do this so like when I land, so I do this, lean it out when I'm taxiing out before the first tow, and actually after I land and when I'm taxiing back to get the glider. Sometimes it's typically like 5 minutes or so between tows, so that's a good amount of time. Those add up every time, so I lean it out every time when I'm taxiing back to pick up the glider. And you can see where they're positioned here. So we got throttles right here in the black and mixture in the red. So if my hand's over there on the throttle, I can have my hand on both, right? So one doesn't go forward without the other. So that way I make sure the mixture always goes to full rich before takeoff. Before we do the first tow, we do a warm-up lap. You'll see us take off. We usually advance that power pretty slowly on that first takeoff. We let the oil temp come up. After we've done our run up and everything, then we'll do that warm-up lap. And that's not only to verify our airplane, the tow plane's good, but also checks the conditions a little bit for the glider pilots. Is it too bumpy out here? What's the cloud level like? Things like that. So your responsibility as a tow plane, as a tow pilot, is starts when you pull that plane out of the hangar. You have a lot of responsibilities. So here's a day we had, we were towing out here. So there's me right there. And we had all these planes in the area. So we kind of have to play ATC as required. So we got the glider here, tow plane here. And then make the positioning calls when you're on tow. So you make a departure call, and then whatever other calls are required, so that everybody has a good situational awareness of where we are. We've definitely had some complaints of people not sure where we are. So as a tow pilot, I'm always trying to do my best to kind of play ATC and say, hey, you're over here, I'm over here, this is how we're going to deconflict this, things like that. As a tow pilot, have your personal minimums. The glider pilots will never cancel on you. They're going to fly if it's gusting 40, they don't care. So have your personal minimums. Their wind, have a maximum wind that says, if it's this windy out there today, any day, I'm not going to fly. I'm not going to tow. I'm going to tell them I'm going to go windsurfing. So, visibility, just have these minimums, right? Things you won't fly unless the weather is this good, right? And don't go below that. So, as you advance more in being a tow pilot, those can change, but it's not going to change like day to day. Be like, oh, I feel like I can fly more wind today, rather than, don't come out there in the morning and, well, it's more than I would usually fly in, but, I think I can do it today. So anyway, have those written down and stick to them. We have some HRS, some club minimums also. So fuel is the most important one. Refuel after either 1.5 on the tack, so that's from startup to whenever, so from last fuel or start up in the morning. 1.5 on the tack, 10 tows, whichever comes first. Yeah, that's also, that's the fuel gauge, it kind of sits up there and goes like this and bobs up and down, so we don't really, it's kind of inaccurate. But those are the important ones. Fuel after you've done 10 tows or 1.5 on the tack. And that's, if you're getting closer, you're 1.3, maybe you got one more tow, maybe not. It's your decision. Always err on the side of being more cautious. So again, fuel, whichever one of those comes first, because you don't want to end up like this guy.
Ouch.
All right. So after release, so we do our whole climb up, whatever. Anastasia kind of talked about when we're towing, we want to keep you guys within range of the airport on our initial climb out, right? We don't want to take off and head straight south and be climbing too far away to where you don't have a glide range back to the airport on that tow. So we want to do a couple circles around the airport initially, make sure you guys get enough altitude to where if you had a rope break at any point on that tow, you could still make it back to the airport. After release, it's standard that glider goes right, tow plane goes left, but in an emergency, anything can happen. So if the glider needs to turn left, for instance, if the wind is out of their left and if they have to turn into the wind to the left, you may have to go straight ahead, right? And that's usually
it's never really going to be a problem because we have that power. It's still pulling us forward to where if that glider has a rope break, no matter what altitude, we're going to pull ahead from them pretty quickly. So anyway, standard is after release, tow plane makes a diving left turn, kind of point the nose down. We're climbing at about 70 miles an hour. So we put the nose down to about 120 miles an hour and then pull the power back to 2,300 RPM. So that's just initial, gets you descending. 120 miles an hour is the rough airspeed, so if it's bumpy, we don't want to go faster than that for the most part. And then we want to avoid shock cooling the engine, so we don't want to just close the idle and dive down to the airport. It might be nice, the glider pilots might like us because they get to go up faster, but we want to be nice to our engine, so we pull back about 200, 1 to 200 every 1,000 feet. Every 1,000 feet we descend. Okay, here's a big one. Don't descend in the pattern, right? If you're descending from a 4,000 foot tow over here at the dog bowl, don't come and do your circles to descend right over the airport in the pattern because that's where everybody else is in the pattern at their 1,600 feet. So rather do your descent out here, maybe come over here and then make a midfield crossing. Do most of your descending down to pattern altitude outside of the pattern so that when you enter that pattern, you're predictable, people know where you're at 1,600 feet. You're not coming down through 3,000 feet in the pattern. It's totally doable, but it's not nice to other people and nobody knows where you're at. And just don't do it. So descend out. All right, landing. So typically we land the tow plane in the grass. So between runway 25 and the north taxiway there, typically we have about 2,000 feet of grass there we use. We can use the pavement though. It's not off limits. We like to land on the grass because it saves the tires, saves the brakes, all that. But in the case of the deconfliction, if you have other traffic, somebody, maybe a glider landed on the grass, and you don't want to circle out there for 10 minutes while they get the glider off and back and all that, you can drop the rope and then land on the pavement. That's no problem. Now, all of our tow planes are standardized with the release system. So we don't have the tow reel system anymore. So it's all the rope. We got that rope dragging behind us, 200 feet back there, and that usually drops down, might be 25, 50 feet below us. So because of that, keep at least 100 feet AGL coming over the taxiway here. Otherwise, you will end up like this guy and pull a runway light out of the. At the end of the day, we're gonna drop the rope a couple of times. So either at the end of the day, when you're done and you're gonna go park, you'll drop the rope, and that's just right here in this area prior to the taxiway. So don't drop it way back here, but don't drop it in that in the main landing grass. We want it over here. So the other thing to remember about that is it drops where you let go of it. So if you pull that guillotine for the rope, it's not the guillotine, the release system, you pull it, it pretty much drops straight down, maybe 10 feet forward. So, don't release it over here thinking it's going to go forward 200 feet. It drops pretty much straight down. So we're going to drop the rope when we're going to go to refuel or at the end of the day, or if you're going to land on the pavement. We'd just rather not drag those rings across the pavement too much on landing. It can be pretty hard on them. Then give a quick call to the ground crew and let them know, hey, I dropped the rope over there, can you go pick it up? And then they can have that ready for you by the time you come back from fuel. If there's other airplanes holding, so for instance, if we got somebody running up here, we might want to drop the rope rather than drag the rope past there because it might scare them. They might think we're going to drag the rope through their prop. So pretty much if there's airplanes there, you might drop the rope. But just be aware of where the other traffic is. One thing to note here, you got the little stop sign up there in the corner. That is saying when there's a sign there on the airport. And that's when people are taxiing down to 25, they're supposed to stop right there when the grass runway is in operation. So if we're landing the grass, they're supposed to stop there, but they don't always do that. So generally, if there's somebody on that north taxiway, we generally don't like to land right there. So maybe do a circle in the pattern, or just come out and land on the pavement. Just because this is technically considered one runway there, the pavement and grass. Okay, there's a couple different things we got to do for paperwork as the tow pilots. So this is mostly, for the tow pilots in the room. Remember to fill out this book. It's in the plane. It goes in the little black pouch. Just pretty simple. Put in the date, your name, what the tack was when you started, tack, and then how many tows you did, and then if you put in any oil or not. Just helps everybody else keep track of who flew it last and if they need to add oil and things like that. So this is the tow record. So when you're in the tow plane and you start for the day, I get out there and the first thing I do when I do my pre-flight, I go in and I put in, put your name, put the date, and then what the tack is when you start and how many quarts of oil and what the fuel level is. So those are important to check. Again, I mentioned those at the beginning when you do your pre-flight. But get those onto here so that you can keep a record of how many quarts did I start with, and then like maybe I lost a quart, throughout the day, or half a quart, whatever it might be. Just check it, and then have that written down. And then on here, it's just keep track of who you towed and what altitude. At the end of the day, all you got to do is snap a picture of this, and then send it to towlog@riversoaring.org. That's all you got to do. There's no online form or any of that. Take a picture, send it to there, and then they keep track of that. I think Rachel keeps track of that. At the end of the day, when possible, top off the fuel. We've had days when fuel pumps are broken or something like that and we couldn't top it off. But for the most part, top off the fuel. The other exception to that is if you went out and did one tow to 3,000 feet, you're going to burn a couple gallons of fuel. There's not really a point in spending all that time to go fuel when you've burned a couple gallons, and it's not really going to affect the guy the next day. Just make a note that you left it, a couple gallons down, whatever. Check the oil again at the end of the day. That way, if it's down to 8 quarts, put a quart in so that the guy the next morning won't have to add that quart. Makes it a little simpler. Secure the tow plane. So right now, both tow planes are in hangars. But securing means if it's either putting it back in the hangar and closing that up, or if it's out on the ramp, tie it down, drop the flaps, make sure everything's turned off, secure the flight controls. Again, verify your mags and master are turned off. Otherwise, the next tow pilot will come out and find a dead battery. And worse, it's more dangerous if he's out there with mags on and spinning the prop, things like that. I always close the windows, whether it's outside, definitely outside, but even in the hangar, then mice can't get in there, things like that. In the hangars, we have a battery tender. It's really simple to hook up. It just comes out the back of the tail, you just plug it in, and that's all you got to do. If you had anything wrong with the plane that day, you can go on that, when you turn in your tow record, send it with that. Send any squawks you had with the plane that day. Or if you know who's towing the next day, let them know, hey, I had this little problem, but it's not a big deal. It's not enough to worry about. Communicate. Communication is key. All right, that's all I got for tow pilot stuff. So now we got some local area flying stuff.
Jonathan?
Yes.
Tow pilot thing is try and keep the airplane semi-clean. I always bring out a full roll of paper towels.
Standard. Do that briefing. Do a thorough brief with the tow pilot and glider pilot. All right.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Before I get started with local area flying, don't forget to sign in, scan the QR code, back of the chair, sitting back there. That's the only record there will be that you were here today, and that's part of your annual proficiency plan. Is declaring that you were here, and if it doesn't jive, you're not going to get credit for it, and you'll have to watch the video later. Also, this afternoon we're going to have 3 gliders that need assembly. If you can stay around after the meeting and help assemble some gliders, if you're a student pilot that has never soloed, you have to check off that item anyway in your training. So we've got LaBelle and Tim, what's your glider?
304.
Yeah, we have 304. And who else is assembling today? I don't remember who it was. Anyway, got 3 of them. And we've got some visitors here also from, got a lot of Willamette folks here. We've got some from Chehalis. Where are you Chehalis guys? Yeah, got 3 light sport guys came in. They flew in from Chehalis to join us today and get scenic flights this afternoon. And where's Carter? Okay, we got. Where you guys are from? Where?
Olympia.
Olympia, right? This is what the Northwest Aviation Conference did for us. We met some folks up there, and they figured there might be some better weather on the other side of the mountains, and here they are. Alrighty, so one of the things that we're thinking more and more about as we've had more and more flights is just communications and being good neighbors. So part of our local area safety, without overdoing it, we want to communicate well when we're in the glider. Make your calls concise. You've all heard the calls coming in, and we can find an entire pattern while somebody's making their call, and we never get to announce that we're on downwind. So let's not do that to other people. Let's be the best example here. And if I make my guesses right, you're all getting education because of this GA airport. The young people, especially that are flying here, are getting a really good education in this because you have to deal with this every day. Be concise. The fewest number of words possible is what I teach and what I really like to hear. Students, if you're flying solo, rehearse when you're doing your pre-landing checklist. Rehearse it so you don't get the wrong runway, the wrong direction, right, left, especially before your 45 or downwind call. Rehearse it. It's an opportunity to say those things so we don't have to say things twice. Also remember, aviate, navigate, then communicate. So if you make a 45 to downwind call and there's any complication, wind or anything else, don't make any more calls. You don't need to announce that you've transitioned from 45 to downwind to base to final. If you can do it, fine. We don't want someone to have an accident because they were trying to get out of their mouth base to final and they ended up on the wrong side of the river. So just keep that in mind, that if you make one call, people are going to know where you are. If you can make two, good. If you can make three, great, but don't feel obligated. We want to be flying first. Okay, avoid excessive non-safety in-flight discussions on CTAF. We do this a little bit as required, but we don't want to be talking about flight conditions a lot on the radio. Now, as an instructor, I will often check in with my students when they're in the air. And that's unapologetically. I need to find out where they are sometimes, check in, but I try to keep that pretty short. But try not to spend a lot of time discussing your position and things. Again, somebody else might need to enter the pattern and they can't make their calls because you just gave a long description of the rotor in front of the dog bowl. And also, for local pilots, power pilots that aren't glider pilots, make note that gliders may switch to 123.3. If any of us are up there, more than one glider is up there, and we're going to do some fun flying, we're going to be in the same area, we'll switch over to 123.3, and you'll hear, usually you'll hear an announcement from the glider pilot, each glider pilot saying, Juliet Hotel switching 123.3. So they can talk all they want out there. Just be aware, you may not be hearing any calls from them, no position reports from those guys while they're out there. As they get transitioning in towards the pattern, they'll be switching back, letting the others know they're switching back to CTAF, and then making remainder of their calls on CTAF. Also, Henry, what are we talking on when we're over 8,000 feet, anywhere pretty much south of Middle Mountain?
Yeah,
We're listening. We're monitoring Seattle Center when we get up there because that's the hood arrival. Everywhere in the area, ideally, but specifically south. Yes, go ahead.
yeah, we're not just monitoring. If you're above 8,000 feet, you should be in contact with them.
Yes, we will. But at a minimum, monitor them as you're approaching that, so you know, first of all, when you can talk, and you're not going to interrupt some call to an Alaska pilot up there, and also so that even if you're not going to go that high, you know what's in the area. And we're using a handheld in Shmongo the other day, and we didn't want to talk a lot, but we at least monitored so we knew what was going on. That's me again. Instructor may need to talk to the student occasionally, so unapologetically, other pilots, I will talk to the students occasionally when I'm checking in on their flight out here. Position reports. We've been commended for upping our game here on this one. It's really important for us as glider pilots to, when we're flying here, is start to get to know who else is out there. If there's a difference between someone coming in, between Todd flying in your Cub and Doug coming in a 310, you know they're going to be flying different patterns. Start to learn the speeds of these aircraft, get to know the local voices. I bet, Joe, you know everybody's voice out there, and you know who's and what kind of pattern they're going to fly as soon as you hear them talking, right?
Pretty much.
The local guys. I've learned this. It's been a stretch for me. I'm just a glider guy. But it's start to get to know the speeds of these aircraft. differentiate the local pilots from others. And by the way, I had Rob and Reed mentioned to me that we need to keep our ears open if we have language communication issues with people that are doing their cross countries here from Hillsborough and so forth. Just be aware of that. And the FSDO wants to know if we have some conflicts that are building because of language issues. Because we probably all experienced this, where we're on downwind and the helicopter stays on downwind and stays on downwind and stays on downwind. And we have to say, there's a glider right in front of you. So just be aware of that, communicate clearly and respectfully, but also if that happens, we're not trying to get anybody in trouble, but they need to know this stuff. It's kind of like NASA reports. They need to know what's going on, and they're asking us to give them that information. We can get that to Joe Mollahan at the FSDO. Know your location and your distance. We're always, there we go. Goes with the avoid glider lingo. Don't go out there and say, Glider Juliet Hotel over the Hill House. Do you know what the Hill House is? Right? What local pilot that's not a glider pilot knows what you know what the Hill House is? Nope. Right, so let's not say Hill House unless you're addressing glider ground. You may be telling glider ground to give them a heads up you're coming back in. Then you can say, Glider Juliet Hotel, we're out here, we're doing this, and coming in so they can be ready for you. But if you're making a call that you want to be understood by the local pilots, don't say Hill House, say 2 southeast. Approximate. Get to know your distances and your positions so you know these. Now, we have to use common sense. If we got 6 gliders flying and somebody says he's over the bridge coming in, we don't need 6 glider pilots all stating their position at the same time. Logically speaking, the one that's maybe closest to the pattern or is most in jeopardy of having to go land right now might be the one to make a statement. But if there are other gliders out there, you can say, Glider Juliet Hotel, 3,000 feet, 2 southeast. Note that there are 6 gliders in the air. Some of them might be on air-to-air frequency. So we could stand with maybe 1 call in response to every inbound from somebody that's maybe the most likely to be in a conflict position. They've been really appreciative that we've been doing this because, of course, we use a lot of times we're launching 2.5 and landing 7. And when we communicate properly, it takes a lot of those potential problems out of the way. Another thing I've been doing, not directly related to communications, but I've noticed my students getting pretty good at this. There is a time to delay a radio call. For example, you're over the Hill House and you're 2,400 feet. You've got about 600 feet. How many minutes is that down to altitude? Any of you guys? Kind of. If you're 600 feet over your altitude at the Hill House, about how many minutes do you have before you're going to need to go for a pattern? 600 feet, how much are you going to sink per minute? Somebody. Yeah, you've probably got at least 3 minutes. So if bonanzas just start, you're going to end up making somebody do a 360 in front of you if you make a call when you don't need to make the call. Keep your eyes open, make sure you know exactly where he is. And if he's making his pattern so wide that he's going to be turning base at the Hill House, yeah, make a call. Otherwise, you've got time to get out of the way. You could go a mile south. You could go a mile south and be out of the way. You start making calls, especially to out-of-town pilots. Going to minimum sync occasionally will buy you a minute. And you can just stay out of the way and avoid a conflict and avoid triggering a 360 or something by some pilot that's out of town that doesn't necessarily know what to do. And it helps us avoid being in the limelight here for communication issues. Always make a staging call as soon as you're on the runway for reset. You land, and you're going to turn around and go again, make a staging call. I forget them. I hope nobody else does, but I forget them sometimes. Have to remember, make that staging call once you've landed, if you're going to be launching again without pushing off. Make a staging call, so at least it's been out there that you're on the runway and you're staging. Tow pilots, you don't need to make a staging call if the glider pilot already did. Listen, I know sometimes it's because you might not have had your radio on. We often get these duplicate calls in fairly close succession. You don't need to make that call. Somebody does. It would be the wing runner, the tow pilot, the glider pilot, occasionally field manager. As long as somebody's made a staging call, you just need one, it's less clutter. And if you are the field manager and pilots are busy pushing back, you can make the staging call for them. All right, here we go. Students, I've told a number of you this. Practice at home and in the car, right? Practice your radio calls. Think your way through a pattern. What's my altitude? What am I going to do? What's my call? It's really hard to think. I could not talk and turn at the same time when I started flying gliders. I'd go turn. I'd get tongue-tied until I got done my turn. So separate that stuff and get it so it's part of you. All right, local area navigation. This circle, how big is this circle? I know we're kind of not real big screen here. Can anybody tell about how big that circle is?
2 miles. 2.
8 nautical miles.
8 miles.
So you notice what's 8 nautical miles away? Baldy, Mount Defiance, and way past the power lines out there. They're the same distance. We tend to think of Baldy as a different thing from Defiance, and because of its terrain and wind, it is. But as far as distance, it's roughly the same there, right? That's 8 nautical miles. I'm just going to cover stuff that's pretty close in here instead of getting way out here. A lot of people want me to put up on the website a list of what altitude, and they use the singular, what altitude do I need to be when I'm at Baldy? So Tim, would you ever think there'd be a reason to be different altitudes, making decisions at different altitudes at Baldy? Instead of just one thing?
Yeah, that's the way you're flying.
Oh, what are you flying? Am I in 126 or am I Tim in the STEMI? Kelly, what's another consideration?
Wind.
Wind. Anybody want to be out over with a strong west wind? Anybody want to be flying out there by Goldendale trying to get back? Right? That's going to be a challenge. Think north and south too. If you got a big wave day and it's coming out of the northwest, you probably don't want to be necessarily down at Baldy. It can be hard to penetrate on the way back. But get these things in your mind. What altitude do I need to be under different conditions? Also, here's Neal Creek, Baldy, Kingsley, power lines, different places. The altitude you are willing to arrive there ought to be something different from what you're willing to depart there from. Okay? And think about the effect of the wind. Here's a good example. I don't want to be out over Convoy Lake on a day like this because I'm never getting back to the airport from up there. Well, in Chimango I can, as long as the engine starts. Effect of the wind. What about clouds? What if you have 3,500 feet over the airport, but it's great wave down by Mount Hood, but the 3,500 feet goes all the way to Baldy?
Ouch.
Are we going to fly that day? Not out there, we won't. But what if the 3,500 feet goes to Middle Mountain and we can see the airport underneath there? Pretty safe to fly the wave out there. You just have to get in underneath that cover. So be aware that the altitude required at a particular location has got to be responsive to all these conditions. Also, precipitation. If you find some berga between you and the airport, you might get some really major sink in there. So you may have to go around it. So these all change how much altitude. And also, going back to the depart from, I could, if I tow to Baldy, I want to be 5,600 feet if I take a tow there. Because I just bypassed knowing where the lift is between the airport and Baldy. But if I went to the dog bowl at 3,000 feet and worked my way to Baldy, now I know what my path back is. And so I can afford to be lower at Baldy when I know what I got used to get there and that it's reliably still working than if I took a tow and bypassed everything. That's why if you're going down to the primary, we've got to be really high down there. Because you may get in a trough, right, Alex? Alex, you might get in a trough all the way back if we're not careful. You get some of that information when you're behind the tow plane, but not as much as you do as if you worked the lift to get out there. And the lift and sink. I like this burial better than the one that's on the other side of zero. All right, house lift. I hope I'm not insulting Kelly and Tim here because they've been dealing with this a long time before I did. But I want newer pilots to know there are various sources of house lift. What's the single most? Let's see here. Patrick, what's the single most important source of lift that we need to always rely on?
Rely on.
What would we always fall back on? What's our assumption here about where we would get lift and would be a safe place to fly on west wind days?
Oh.
Hills.
The ridge. Get to know our ridge. Before you try anything else here, get to know our ridge. If you get to know the ridge, you know that you shouldn't go down to the dog bowl and go straight out into the valley at 3,000 feet. Come down the ridge and take a left turn from the notch. Get to know that ridge, and even if it's not giving you a lot of lift, it will almost certainly depress the sink rate. It's a lot safer to come down the ridge than to go straight off of Booth Hill there through that big sinker and come straight for the airport. A lot of times it's much better to do a big U-shape than to try to go straight to the airport through those convergences. But here's some of the, oops, click the button there, sorry about that. We have ridge lift along the ridge there. We've got major convergence lines commonly that set up from sort of Odell out to Middle Mountain, and another one I think that sets up from Neil Creek out to Hannah Mill. A couple of major east to west convergences. They're often marked by big cloud streets. Get to know those. Learn when they're working under what conditions, so you know how to use those. And then any given day, find out if they're there, so you know if you can use them on your way back. It just you get a lot better, a lot stronger cross-country experience and practice if you make note of them. The lava flow. Anybody ever found a thermal over the north end of the lava flow? See Kelly doing this. That's the non-committal, right? I'm convinced.
I've looked a lot.
Yeah, I've looked for them there too.
It seems like there should be.
It seems like there should be. But remember, the lava flow is downhill south to north. So my expectation is, and I've seen proof of this, is that the warm air tends to drift up the lava flow and pop off at the south end more, because you tend to find better cues down there. The lava flow with all that black isn't necessarily the best place. Learn these things, talk to the locals, get out and experience these things and step out slowly. Also, the lava flow tends to be a great place for wave, but it's not coming from the lava flow, it's coming from that ridge behind it. But it's a good ground point of reference. Get to know your ground points of reference. We do have a proving grounds here. Kelly, I think you flew it on the first day that I put this up. I said, nobody's going to ever do this. It's too hard. And Kelly comes back the next day. I flew the big one today.
Lucky. Conditions were good.
No, it's difficult here because we often don't have the cloud base that can get us out that far and still have Hood River. There aren't very many places you can land out around here. We'll talk to the locals about those. There's a reason I'm not printing a list of all these places. It is to the point, and Mike, this stuff is it's in our turn point files, but I don't want people to have one fixed altitude in their mind on these things, and you've got to check fields. For example, what's the consideration for landing at the Trout Lake Airport, Emily?
Livestock.
There might be livestock there. Who would we call if we wanted to find out any given day?
Livestock.
Yes, Emily's name is the official rep for the Trout Lake Airport up there. Perfectly landable, but we want to check in ahead of time. If you're going to be flying in an area and you might need to use it, ask. That way you know if it's a land out option there. We're going to go over a lot of these points later. All right, big picture. I'm not going into this a lot. You realize that that green circle was the smallest one of our local area. That's 8 nautical miles. These are 8, 12, 16, and 20. Notice that Mount Hood, Lookout Mountain, and Trout Lake are all 20 nautical miles away, and Mount Adams isn't even in the picture. We tend to think Mount Hood and Mount Adams are the same distance away. They're not. Mount Adams is about 30 nautical miles out. That's a tough game to get down that far. It's worth trying, and we've had pilots that go down there. But start expanding your range. Also note that the same distance away from, let's say, the lava flow here, you can be way over by Wind Mountain. How many people go west at all on their flights? How far west have you been, Kelly?
About 3 or 4 miles west of the dam of Cascade Lodge.
Yeah, how high were you when you were there?
Well, it varies, but sometimes high. But I got to tell you, when the wind's blowing really hard, you can be pretty low and head down on the water when the wind's blowing and get like a 70-to-1 glider ratio. You're hauling butt. And I've been over Cascade Locks at less than 4,000 feet, Cascade Locks Airport, and made it back with plenty of altitude left over.
Did you have to come around the corner,
I also
though?
have an electric motor on the glider that I can it's a great
peace of mind, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I never had to use it, and so
Plan B.
When you're upwind, it's amazing how, and you can practice this by flying off the ridge, go out west, come back the ridge, and you'll be amazed at how little altitude you actually lose with the wind at your back. So anyway, it's just.
Yeah, we tend to think our flight area is north and south. In fact, we think it's mostly south. And for newer pilots, that's for sure where we spend our time. But stretch your limits safely, and you'll find out there's great lift over Augsburg are out there past Wind Mountain and past Log Mountain. There's great wave that comes off of there. And you guys have explored. I mean, Tim, you went Niwell to Yakima, whipped inside Yakima one day last year, right? That's that's way out there, but you also have an engine. It's a peace of mind factor. It helps. I know. Same thing in the Chemongos, except
Oh,
not as well as these guys.
It hurts if they're not used.
Yeah, I know.
Don't put my hand in there.
I know. I'm going to be so ashamed if I have to do this. But we can extend our range. That helps us get prepped for more cross country. Be safe. Also, on east wind days, we have these surprising things that we don't think about much, and that is we get the wave off of our little ridge there. We get good wave. I went on a pattern tow with Miles in the 233 last year, got over there at 2,100 feet, and the wave sits up a mile from the ridge there often. It took us up to 5,000 feet. We got a 2,000 foot high ridge, and the wave was going up to at least 5,000 feet there.
Wow.
Yeah. Also, if you on west wind days, if you go over by Defiance, it's going to be kind of raucous over there because there's a lot of rotor, but that's where the wave is working really well if you go west. You don't always have to stay down here. Again, talk to the locals, get some experience flying these things, step out slowly and start dialing this in. And always remember, you have to have a 5-minute long memory as a pilot so you remember where the lift was behind you. Alrighty, fun stuff. We're just going to go through some of our local viewpoints and see who can get it. By the way, what's that?
Space.
Venus. Night flying, huh?
Yeah, it looks like I'm flying at night. That's in the Chemongo, and that was a reflection of the sun on the other side. That's Mount Adams. That was a reflection of the sun on the canopy. Made a great shot because it looks like I'm doing night flying in some midnight sun, but it's not. Right, where's this? Dog ball. Shout them out. Okay, dog ball, yes. How about that?
Aldi.
Aldi. How far away is that?
8.
Very good. What's that? Why do we call it the hill house when it's so flat? Because everything looks flat when you're looking straight down. If you haven't flown in this kind of terrain and you fly down the ridge, it looks like it's flat on the top. Don't kid yourself. It all looks flat when you're looking straight down. What's that? What's that a good source of?
Thermals.
Thermal lift, yeah. It's out across the river there. What's that? Oops, up that one. How about that one? Which end? North end. Looks like a cat's paw right there. How about that? Yeah, that's Defiance looking east towards the airport from the other side of Defiance. Some of these are Google Earth, so they're not as much fun as actually glider shots. Airport is straight ahead in the middle, pretty much in the middle there. How about this? Yeah, I always call that Steve Frisbee's view of the notch. Steve did a flight, great flight one day, got up in the wave, the hole that he was looking at disappeared, so he went to go to the dowels, and he turned around and saw, oh, I see Hood River. I can come in under the cover, but when you have a strong wind, the ridge develops a real maturity on the top, and he said he flew through the notch looking up at the terrain. So I've done that with the Chemongo, but I've got an engine. How about that? The answer's about 10 of them already. Ready? What's that?
Lawrence Lake.
Lawrence Lake. Yeah, very good. That's Lawrence Lake down there. So Mount Hood and Lawrence Lake. What's that? It's the same place looking south, right? How many people have had approximately this view of the valley at some point in their flying? Put your hand up if you've seen it. Yeah. Feels good to get in a glider. Ah, that 140. That engine helps. No, it's really exciting when you get out and start seeing these views of things. That's a real accomplishment, and it's the beginnings of cross country for those of us that want to get more and go out to a freight and so forth. It can be done here, and when you get down there at an altitude like this, you can see the airport barely way back in here somewhere in the middle mountain. How about that? That's the same view. It's an actual photo, right? There's Lawrence Lake down on the bottom. Down here. Sorry about that. Lawrence Lake and looking at Mount St. Helens there. And this is one of those things where you have to know your altitudes. There's clouds there. Is it unsafe? No, because you can descend underneath those clouds. You better know your cloud base when you're flying out there. There's the corner of the lava flow over there. And that's the west fork of the Hood River. That's the valley that goes off up towards the town of Sandy up here, over to Lolo Pass. What's that? Kingsley, looking which direction? West. Do you see Wind Mountain down there? Wind Mountain right here. Right? That's Carson right there. Hopefully you've all had looks of Kingsley. How high do you need to even be to see Kingsley? it sits up on this plateau until when you're at 3,500 feet, you can't even see it from over here because you're barely above it. It hides there on that plateau, but there's a lot of great thermal area over there. And of course, this is the same thing looking the other way towards the airport, past Kingsley. How about that one?
Your ridge?
Neil Creek, right? That's the far edge of Neil Creek where all that lift gets concentrated on that. The wind blows, comes through the Neil Creek Valley, blows up here and right over there, right? Tim, you want to fly in there about 85 knots someday?
Yeah.
Watch out for that maneuvering speed and the rough airspeed when you go in there. Yeah, but that's another lift concentrator. Learn these places, talk to the locals, get some experience. What's that? That's basically over Neil Creek, looking directly north along the ridge. That's a good view. That's a good altitude to see the ridge from. What's that? Anna Mill. Do you think you can land on their runway? I don't know if you can even see it up there. There's the little runway right there. Used to seem like a nice runway until I went out and walked there one day and found out the pavement's 20 feet wide and there are trees on the edge of it. So you might survive, but the wings definitely wouldn't.
Oh, jeez.
Aside from two labels, that's Scott Jones taking a picture of Jonathan and the two labels. What's this angle? Where are we pointed?
No.
What's directly in front of the glider's nose down low? See Middle Mountain there? Yep, there's Middle Mountain there, and under the tail of in front of the nose of the other one is probably Defiance over there. So get to know these sight pictures. How about that one? Very good. Do you see two airports there, airstrips? You know where they are? Haha. This is Port Elsinore, and I'm looking at the wrong angle here. Spring Creek, right over there. It's Lane Smith's strip over there. Both very, very, very landable, very safe land-out options that extend our range by about 5 miles. We haven't landed there yet. Maybe one day we'll practice. It's a good one. You have to get out a little bit outside the local area to get this view of things. This is on the way to Mount St. Helens. It's over the lava flow north of Willard, looking towards Mount Adams. But hopefully you start extending your range, getting to know these things. There, what's that? Fit? Hospital Hill. Very good. That's sort of the equivalent of the ridge on the other side of the river. Another good source of lift. First you have to get there. This is a composite picture. This is also Lawrence Lake. You can see Lawrence Lake and the lava flow. Lawrence Lake down, where are we here? Lawrence Lake down here, lava flow right there. So this is near Mount Hood, looking south, looking north. What's the valley underneath the tow plane? Very good. You guys good? Yeah. I noticed the juniors seem to know the area pretty well.
Some of us can't hear what they're saying, though, so if you could repeat the answer.
Oh yeah, that's D Valley down there,
Okay.
underneath the tow plane. That's Middle Mountain on the left. This is facing Mount Hood. Where's the glider geographically in this picture? Very good. Pretty much east of Hood. That's our ghostly landing, the only one we had was the glider here. That was the only indication we had, and that took us from 11 to 17.9.
Woo.
It was the only visible indication of lift that day, so I just knew I had to be on the upwind side of it. Ooh. Jonathan, what's that? Where's he? And very good, Bobsfield. Is it landable by a glider? Not, because it's got what? Sprinklers on the side. So it's a call ahead, find out if the stuff's there. Is it landable in a Super Cub? Yeah. So be aware of these. It's up by Trout Lake. Where's the glider? Where's the glider's position in this picture? Yeah, a little southeast of Hood, looking up towards Hood and St. Helens.
Wow.
How about other places? Yes, on the ramp at Ephrata. How about that one? Anybody ever landed there? Mark? Where's that? You landed there. Pine Hollow. that landable by a glider probably?
Very.
Very. It'd be a great bailout place. I know, Kelly, you flew your glider over. You said you stayed right at Cloud Base that day and went all the way down there.
Yeah.
That's about
Yeah,
30 miles away from here.
I think the Willamette, a couple of guys from Willamette used to launch gliders from there.
Huh?
So
Yeah, that's a really good safety bailout point if you're going to get past sort of the government camp / Lookout Mountain Bluegrass Ridge area down there. And I know I'm going over this pretty fast, but I want to just mainly give you a flavor that people are familiar with the area. They recognize these site pictures. That's the way to get to know this. Where's this? Anybody know where Lake Lenore is? Lake Lenore Airstrip? Patrick, do you know where it is?
I didn't get up there.
No, you got to Beasley though.
Yes.
Yes, this is the other one. This is the other dirt airstrip up on the plateau out of Ephrata. So we're encouraging people to go more and more out of Ephrata here. Where's that? And that. Yes, that's at the Dalles. That's a great land out place too. It's easy, right? It's right there. How about that? Patrick, you know where that is?
Oh, yes.
Uh-huh. What gliders are there, those, Kylan?
L33 and Lavelle.
And who was piloting the Lavelle? Yeah, they had a great land out there. Kylie got a video of Isabel landing there because he got to the ground first. How much runway did she use?
500 feet,
How much did you use?
all of it.
There we go.
Whoa.
This is not a picture from one of our gliders. There's the guy who flew over Everest. I didn't say they were all from Mars. All right, what have we been up to here, Hood River? Well, let's see. In 2023, we had 120 scenic flights. We had 164 last year. Private tows. We went from 214 a couple years ago to 352. Take a look at this. Student tows. Last 2024, we had 527. We have 1,220 tows in 2025. Total tows, 1,340. About a 50% increase in tows 2024 to 2025. Total hours, effectively doubled the student hours, instructional hours about 3 times. Tow pilots. Zach did about, I'm looking at just the logs, Zach did about 565 tows for us last year, so I think he won that. I think he won the award for the most active tow pilot of the year.
God.
That only counts what we did here. Right? I mean, I don't know if he was towing it in Willamette, he was
Yep.
instructing down there as well, but good job on Zach. And for what it's worth, we tripled our net revenue. We're not a rich club, but it does help. Guess what? The tow planes and gliders only make money when
They're flying.
they're flying. Yes, indeed. If we can fly more, we help sustain the club here, and we get to learn things and have a whole lot of fun. All right. Now it's all about you. Whose first time in a glider was in 2025? Whoa, that's pretty good. Bunches.
Wow.
Nice. Who did their first solo in a glider last year? We have several. In fact, I have pictures of some of you. In fact, all the ones that I soloed here, there probably were more.
Wow.
How about who passed a check ride of any kind last year? Keep your hand up if you passed more than one check ride. Guess it was a... Well, yeah, I know. And what were you doing your check ride in?
Which one?
The one you passed, the ones you passed?
Multiple.
Well, I knew you did a glider one. What were the other ones in?
Well, 7.3, and then an FAA with the 7.
Nice. Yeah. We have a bunch of check rides in the last year, and I apologize, Willamette people. I didn't have pictures of your stuff here, but you can get back at us next week. These are all, I think, all the check rides here, including mostly glider. Jonathan got to help me prepare Scott for his glider add-on commercial, and a few weeks later, Scott was Jonathan's DPE for a CFII check ride, so we'll give and take here. Who flew in a contest in 2025? Ah, she's not here. Haha, Isabel would have been here. Who flew a tow plane for the first time last year? Anybody? Jake and Jason, thank you. Appreciate that, guys. And a couple of our local guys, Jake and Jason, and they have become some of our more active tow pilots because they live close enough we can get a hold of them on somewhat short notice. We try not to leverage that too much, but We appreciate it very, very much. There's a lot of students here that have made a lot of progress since you guys have been available. And back to Zach's accomplishment here as tow pilot, 565 tows. Who accomplished a new badge? If you had your first solo, that's an A badge, so even if you didn't get it, put your hands way up high. Yeah. Okay, got some badges. Who got better than an A badge? Better than a B badge? Better than a C badge? Who got a silver badge? Yeah, great. And where did you do that? At a freight ad. And we had a picture of you 55 miles, you took a picture 55 miles from the airport instead of 55 miles high like you usually are. Who set a record in the last year? Anybody? How about the last 2 years? Anybody set a record in the last 2 years? And whose record did you beat? Got a little competition going on here. Really, by the way, it was really fun. Just to have a sideline here, we went to the Northwest Aviation Conference. 5 juniors did presentations. I introduced and brought up the rear. They did presentations, and I could not have planned what happened organically with the juniors. The ambassadors, all these juniors are. Henry gets up and he says, I know Jonathan's going to talk in a little while, but he's got all these things he's done, but I want you to know one thing. I beat his record. And then he says, Isabel's going to talk also, and she's going to tell you she's had 3 landouts, but she's actually had 4. Then Isabel gets up and says, yeah, I've had 4 landouts. That's how she got her new nickname, Isabel, you land out. And to which we've been rubbing that in mercilessly, but she loves it, and it's a very good compliment. You know, she did her check ride on her 16th birthday last year, flew in the Region 8 contest a week later. She placed 7th out of 10, even though she landed out twice during the week. But she got up and said, yeah, I've landed out 4 times, but Jonathan's landed out 10 times.
Wow.
And then Jonathan, when his son came, he says, yeah, I've landed out 10 times, unlike these rookies. So it's the power of this junior contingent here to help build this thing and spread the word and just get people fired up about it is really good, which is one reason I'm involved in all of them and these things. Landouts. Who actually had at least 1 landout in 2025? Oh, both Beasleys. Anybody else have one? Yeah, Isabel's not here, so we can talk about her. Anyway, she has some very nice landouts. So here are some landouts. That one kind of counts, Henry. The one at the Dalles, that was intentional. I told him to go fly my LaBelle to the Dalles because I needed to put it in the trailer anyway. Awards. Here are some awards. This is Kylan and Isabel at the Seattle Glider Council banquet. They both got Knights of the Open Field Award. It's a Landout Award. Isabel was also awarded the Student Pilot of the Year Award from the Seattle Glider Council. And Mike, there's a picture. Where's Mike? Where's Mike? Back there. What was this award you were handing to us? Is at the contest. What was it called?
Getting high, let's see, the rocket award. Gosh, it was because she started at the bottom and passed a whole bunch of people on the way up.
Oh yeah. 1 week after she turned 16, it was a very successful
Fast track
week. Yeah. Calendar for the year. Every Thursday night, we have ground school members are certainly invited. If you want to come visit, let me know so I know what's coming. We do ground school right now. We're just doing cross country. If you want to know really how to do cross country, go study with Mike Bamberg on Saturdays. But I do my best here. On Thursday nights, we're doing study for the Bronze Badge written test and to get ready for the summer, more of the summer cross country season. Saturday Academy, we gather for breakfast, 7:30 every Saturday. I just need to know who's coming. And we do an hour to 2, well, almost never less than 2 hours ground school, and we do an intense and in-depth weather brief for that day's weather, and we study how weather works. And then if and when the ceiling lifts, we go up and we fly the rest of the day and do our logging at the end of the day as a group. And we've had some great flights. Last winter, 2024-25, we were doing that kind, and you and I got up. We had some little wave thing. My watch was off. It's getting kind of dark. Let me get back down. And, next Saturday, Willamette Valley. Everybody that's here that's primarily a member of Willamette, stand up. Right. Thanks for coming. We appreciate you joining us. I am going over with the small contingent of juniors and Candida And we are bringing breakfast to your safety meeting next week. So we're going to join forces and see what if you can top this. April 11th. All of those that can try to make it to a Friday. Yes, Mike. Sorry.
Yeah, so, you mentioned I'm doing a cross-country
Yes.
standardization every Saturday afternoon at 1 o'clock at the same location where our meeting will be next week, which is the Twin Oaks Airport.
Oh, that's right.
Next week, most of you don't want me to come because we're going to be doing Condor, and you're all Condor experts. But following that, I will send Brian what our topic list is for a given one, and if you'd like to come, you're welcome to do it.
Yes. Thank you. The more we can get the cross-country word out and get practicing and learning these things, the more safely we can step farther away from the airport and participate in these regional events. The southern contingent has been growing pretty strongly here in the Ephrata world, for sure. Speaking of which, April 11th, that's the day they get everything out of they set up the training center at Ephrata. We make use of their facility in the summer. We go to events. Anybody that wants to attend, I will not have a Saturday Academy that day. I will put a sign up so we can coordinate some transportation. If some of us can fly up, we will. Otherwise, I'm going to make the drive each way and help them set up their training center for the spring. And that's not too early to possibly get some lift up there if we happen to be able to take the motor glider up. But let me know if you want to go to that. April 25th, we are doing a spring party. I haven't asked Russ if we can use this hangar yet, but somewhere we will be doing a spring party for Hood River Soaring, and you're all invited. May 9th, Alaska Airlines Day. It's a career day at PDX, it's at the Horizon hangar. This is it's basically started out as a Civil Air Patrol and Boy Scouts event, and it's expanded to any kind of group. So I think the attendee age is something like 8 through 17 for the attendees, but if people want to go as chaperones, they can sign up as well. Sign up on my event that shows up on the team up for that day, and I will help coordinate. A couple of us are hoping to fly in, but we do a joint presence with Willamette, and Clee's in charge of it. But I'll be the interface for funneling information to you about our presence there. Yes.
On Alaska Airlines Day, on the email you sent to everyone, you said you could bring guns. How do I sign up?
Yeah, sign up and I'll get you the information. Just sign up on the team up event. We have to then give them a complete list, and we have to have enough chaperones. But you have to be signed up as part of a group. So some schools can do it. We'll do it as part of River Soaring. We'll get somebody that's not named Brian. We'll be spearheading organizing the attendees that go. I'm organizing a small number of volunteers that will be going to alongside Clee to help represent the glider community and at the booth there for the glider efforts. Memorial Day weekend, that's our big spring opener, soaring at the Dust Up. If you want to go fly cross country in Ephrata this year, try to get to the Dust Up for starters. That's a really good. They do soaring before that, but a lot of people are there. We're hopeful we'll be able to get the L-33 up there and maybe even the Alaska 126 up there for that. We should get some private gliders for sure. My LaBelle will be going up. We need to get names together to coordinate transportation for ourselves, for some gliders. The one thing I won't do with this is organize towing gliders up there. Somebody else, I will help connect people, but I have enough going on. So let's just try to help stay coordinated. Yes, Mike?
Would you like to cover a little bit of what's going to happen at Dust Up so people understand what's going on?
Yeah. So the Dust Up is, people will bring their single place gliders, dual gliders, and it's from Memorial Day and basically learn and practice cross-country flight out of Ephrata. They usually will have some, go ahead, all of you explain it better than I can.
Well, so there are two activities that take place. Years past, we flip-flopped them every other year. Now we do both of them. One is help cross-country, learn cross-country. Number two, help you learn how to do tasks and or racing if you want to do it that way. So we have two different tracks that are going simultaneously. There'll be a morning briefing every day. You'll get a weather briefing every day. You'll get to learn some of that. Every evening there will be some kind of presentation, usually 2 or 3 of them. so that you can learn more information. So it's not just go and fly. It's an educational opportunity for a number of different avenues of soaring. You can actually get tows Friday before, and maybe even earlier, but at least the Friday before, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then the following week, one of the northern clubs has their encampment, but you can still stay and fly if you have your own aircraft. So it's not like it's 3 days done and gone. There's lots of different other things going on here.
Yeah, from Memorial Day until mid-July, there's something almost every week at Ephrata. And Jonathan, how many weeks did you spend up there in 2024? About 4 weeks towing up there for all these different groups. And you really get, it's also the people you meet at these things. And it's an opportunity to go out and get that silver distance or work on that goal or practice for the contest. Or for some of you juniors to practice so when you go to the cross-country camp a few weeks later, you've got some experience up there. Region 8 contest. Anybody that wants to go up and help on the ground crew, let me know, and I will do what I can to sneak in some cross-country stuff in the Shamongo with you that week. If you have a glider, and I have mine, the LaBelle as well, then you can practice, you can help launch gliders and go out and take a flight later in the day and see if you can't go catch some of the competitors, or at least learn how to do tasks and get, it generally happens in pretty prime cross-country weather. By the way, Ephrata they do have a separate membership, and there's some, it's not exorbitant, there's membership fees and tow fees and usage fees. We don't collect any of that, just be aware that we want to take care of them, so be sure that you do the proper membership, join up there. I can help you with any of that. Big thing for us is June 28th to July 5th it's billed as a junior camp because the SSA pays for the tows for the junior at this camp. It is the dust up on steroids. It's 7 days. We arrive on the Sunday, get all the gliders set up, orientation, 6 days of flying. It's actually 8 days. We start on the Sunday. We have Monday through Saturday. We take tows every day. The juniors will fly with mentors. You can bring your single place glider as an adult and just fly. The only thing I require is that you sign up. There's no registration fee for adults. You just have to pay the SGC fees, and we hope you'll make some donation towards the cost of food. But we do take over the kitchen that week, and it's very holistic. Alex, you can attest to this. We want everybody there at breakfast because the juniors are going to be bending your ear, and you're going to be coaching these juniors. So experienced cross-country pilots can come out and mentor. People will want to learn cross-country. As long as you bring your own glider and your own mentor, you can come. We provide the gliders and the mentors for the juniors. But if you're going to come as an adult, you're welcome. You've got to find your own glider and your mentor and get everybody registered so we know how many we're cooking for. We are having this Seawally Kamaswashugo Aviation Association group. Their summer camp now has integrated a day at the glider port. And I'm going to be going down there on their Monday of their camp to teach about gliders on day one. And then the Saturday, they're coming out to tour the museum. And they're all going to do some sort of short scenic flights. And I will need a boatload of juniors to come out and help with those things. Kelly, what about a Lakeview trip one of these days?
I really think that would be great. I mean, it's a different place. Conditions are just unbelievably great there, and the scenery's great. And I just think it's an underused spot.
Yeah.
And it's only 5 hours away, so it's a day's travel. So it's totally within reach. And I'm all about it. If we decide to do that, I'll help in any way I can.
I think our own safari to a place that's underutilized may be coming to bring more people. I think the self-launch guys have gone down there. Maybe 3 of you have been down there.
Yeah, and every once in a while we go down there and there'll be a club from California, having a safari down there. So it's they're used to having a bunch of gliders and a bunch of glider pilots there, kind of take over the airport.
A lot of ridge flying down there. Is that what you've got?
There is a ridge, but the thermals are fantastic. Usually the cloud bases are at 16,000.
Oh, geez.
And when you look at SkySight every once in a while, when you're checking out the conditions, just tune in, go down to Lakeview and look at it. It's down in southern real close to the border in southern Oregon, and it's a pretty special place as far as thermals go, for sure.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to maybe making an appearance down there at some point, and maybe we can expand our horizons a little bit more. All right, we'll come back to questions later. We need to go over a few technicalities. The annual proficiency plan. It's an online form. If you're going to fly the tow plane or take a tow this year, you have to complete it, which means yes, and I will have a QR code at the end of this, that if you want to fly this afternoon, you have to get your annual proficiency plan submitted. It's too complicated for me administratively trying to maintain all different dates and so forth. So you'll be able to scan the code and fill it out. You were here at the meeting, I know that much. Now, who actually has read fully the Hood River Soaring Operations Manual this year, since January 1st? All right, so if you didn't, you're not flying today because that's part of the requirement of the proficiency plan you have to submit unless you want to get online and try to read that. You have to attest to having read that this year. It's an annual requirement. You self-launch guys, we don't care, right? Although, it's a good idea, right? But if you want to fly as pilot in command of a tow plane or a glider, you've got to read that. So yes, tow pilots, it's the stuff we talk about here. More on some things, less on others, but it's an annual requirement. It's going to ask for some pilot currency details, whether you're at this meeting. I will not have the video of this meeting posted until I have time for it. I'm not going to go post it on my way to the glider port. It will be sometime later this week, so people that aren't here, we'll get that video up, and then there's a video and test that stands instead of attendance at this meeting. If you don't sign in back there with that using that QR code, then I don't have any record that you were here. Right. Also, who is, as of this moment, who has 3 glider flights as pilot in command in the last 90 days? Okay, if you didn't put up your hand, you're not flying a Hood River Soaring glider today. Because this is the line in the sand we had to draw also, that the whole purpose is to encourage people, it's not punitive, it's to encourage people to fly more in the winter. But we said you have to fly with an instructor first. Well, you can fly with an instructor today if there's capacity, but if you're not current as of the date and time of this meeting, then you have to fly with an instructor before you can fly as pilot in command. Again, not punitive. It seems to be working a little. We're getting more people to fly in the winter, and that's the whole purpose of it, really. Just contact me or one of the other instructors. Team Up, security. We don't publish the Team Up URL because it doesn't require you to sign in. Think about having a website out there that has your phone number and email address on it for every time you sign up to fly here. And it's just hanging out there. If somebody found it, they could have your information. That's our Team Up. So once a year, we change that link. And we don't publish the link as a separate, we don't put it on a QR code. It has changed, or is changing now. To get our new Team Up link, you're going to go to the Hood River Soaring website. You're going to sign in, member resources, sign in, and you see the Team Up link right there. You click that, and now, when you get there, just say you can bookmark it yourself. That's just a security thing, so once a year we have a reset, so we don't have, the robots can't find us. We never had a problem, but we don't want people having a link from 4 years ago, having that link still valid. So we changed the URL. It's the same site, we changed the URL once a year for security purposes. So don't forget to log in one time using your Hood River Soaring credentials. Go to the Team Up link, bookmark that again. Team Up usage. Pay attention to what's already on the schedule when you sign up. Don't sign up when we have over scenic flights. For example, today, we have scenic flights scheduled, 5 of them. I think the number's been reduced a little by now, but we have 5 of them between 2 o'clock and 3, departing between 2 o'clock and 3:30. We have 5 flights.
Wow.
That's 100% of our tow capacity for that time slot. It's first come, first served, and I think we'll have some extra capacity today because I think, Chehalis guys, we had 3 instead of 5 of you, is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so we got a little bit lucky. We had 3 people sign up right in the middle of when so be aware of, look at what the capacity seems to be when you sign up. The field manager is not going to know who signed up first, and he's going to give priority to the scenic flights. So we also don't schedule scenic flights on top of other stuff. Be a little respectful because we're a volunteer organization mostly, and we don't have time to referee things. So be a little careful about signing up on when there's other stuff. Don't put yourself in the same slot when there's 2 scenic flights in half an hour. Don't put yourself at some other time later in the day. There should be some capacity at about 3 o'clock, 3:30. So we still got plenty of daylight after that. Okay, but just a note for today. Weather for tomorrow. What do you see?
Wow.
Intense wave, dumping wave.
No, that's sky sight for tomorrow, as of this morning.
Oh, it is?
Okay, now, that's the good news. There's the low cloud cover. There's the bad news. So we look at the SKU-T. By the way, low cloud cover, the red is the highest percentage of cover for low cloud cover. What does cloud cover mean in sky sight? How many feet? 4,000 meters, under 13,000. So we might have anything from fog at the airport to 12,990 feet. Can't tell from here, but what does tell us where the clouds will develop? There's our SKU-T at the airport at 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. We have a 3,000-foot ceiling with all that wonderful wave up there. But what could I do, Henry, even though there might be a 3,000-foot ceiling over the airport? Well, I could do that. But I also can check something like Middle Mountain and see if maybe we're going to have open skies out away from the airport. And sure enough, better chance of some stuff. Remember I was talking about making sure you can get back in under the cover? This is very common in our wave conditions here. You have, it could be 3,000 to 4,000 foot ceiling here, but big holes around, like big holes all the way to Mount Hood. That may be what we have going on tomorrow. I'm not trying to get everybody out here flying tomorrow. Just be aware, get to use the weather, get to use the resources. Don't look at one picture of things and assume you've got the whole picture. There's a lot more going on than just one thing. All right. The QR code for the proficiency plan is right there. So when we are done here, anybody that was here and read the operations manual before now can attest to their proficiency, and then you are, and assuming you have that you have your 3 flights in the last 90 days and all that stuff, you're good to go. Otherwise, you'll be attesting to the fact that I'm going to fly with an instructor. Now, are we giving you any questions that you want to ask for any of the presenters here? Yes?
I just have a comment on the schedule. Me personally, when I put myself on the schedule as a co-pilot, example between 10 and 1,
Yeah.
I usually give myself a half hour, but it usually means I have a hard stop at 1. So if you're going to schedule yourself for, say, 12:30 or 1 o'clock, just know that at 1 o'clock, I'm going to be putting the tail plane away. So if you want to fly in the window that I'm telling, maybe come a little earlier, or reach out and say, hey, any chance you can stay a little bit later? Sometimes I can, sometimes I can't. It's happened enough times where people are starting to set up a glider at 1 o'clock and I'm taxiing to go fill it back up. And I just don't want that conflict with any of the people.
Yeah, good point. If you see a co-pilot signed up to tow until 1, it doesn't mean he's willing to take off on his last 8,000-foot tow at 12:59. It means he's, unless you work it out with him separately, assume he needs to be at least taxiing away by then. And all that, you guys have been very flexible, and I know sometimes it's just you set a window and maybe you can do more, but don't assume that, and also just be aware of what's on there. It's fine. If a bunch of people want to come fly the same day, put yourself on there. Be a little careful about the overwriting or setting yourself up at the same time as scenics, because we have to give priority to those. Those are the outside revenue ones. Okay? Other questions, comments? Nothing. All right. Well, Hood Tech Aero for letting us use the building here. Thank you to John Flynn for recording, so a bunch of people can take the test later. And thank you, juniors, for your participation in putting this on. And yes?
Any chance to write a PDF?
Oh, thank you. I forgot to write it down. Yes. Is anybody headed back to Portland in the next hour and a half? If somebody can get with Noel and give him a ride to the airport, we would appreciate it.
Oh, PDF.
I figured there had to be somebody headed west from here on 84. Needs to get back down the Snowbird. Alrighty, thank you for coming. Feel free to ask more questions. We do have some ops going on in this afternoon. Most particularly, we've got our 3 friends from Chehalis here that are doing some scenic flights. Those will, Jeff, we'll tag team. There's only 3 of them, but we'll tag team those, and that means we have some capacity for other flights. And please, 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 if you can help assemble a glider, we have at least 3 of them that want to be assembled today. get down to the glider port, and you can help put away tables first, but get down to the glider port and see if you can't help set up glider, watch the operation, and if possible, we can squeeze in some more flights this afternoon. Looks like a good day for it. Mark, any comments?
You covered most of it, no big changes.
You had something you were going to hold over people's heads.
Oh, just, yeah, if you know, are putting your flight entries in, just be aware that that is our logbook data. That determines our annuals, our 100-hour inspections, all that stuff, and be careful when you put your hours in. If you put 8 hours instead of 0.8, we will gladly invoice you. Any ATPs out there, don't put your total career flight time on there. We'll gladly invoice you for that as well. But no, really no major changes as far as getting that data in. But if you have any questions, let me know. If the tow pilot list is out of whack, let me know. If something on team up is out of whack, let me know.
Who monitors the tow plane time to oil change? Last time I was in the tow plane, it was way over oil change.